Hello, good morning. Welcome to another episode of the Inter-University Debate Show by Civic Space TV. This is a show where we are hosting the students of Muteesa, the first Royal University. The students are the best speakers out of, my God. The students are the best speakers in their Hope Initiative Club who will be representing them at the Inter-University Interface. On the call right now, I have Mr. Lubaddde
It's
Trevor. It's Lubaddde, Mr. Lubaddde Trevor, and we have Mr. Mpaata Hamiduh, and they will be discussing for us the topic under the theme Uganda's unending quest for credible, free, and fair elections. And in this, we shall be analyzing the credibility of elections in Uganda since 1961. So, of course, to start the conversation, I will start with you, Trevor. Trevor, I would like you to give us a background of elections in Uganda since we gained independence, or even before, during colonial times. What have elections in Uganda been like, and how did we get to this point of elections under the 1995 Constitution? Trevor.
Yes, I'm really obliged for this last question. So I am Lubaddde Trevor from Muteesa, the first Royal University. So before I elucidate into an explanation or a recap of how we have undergone a various or miscellaneous election processes or the cycle, so I want to first explain what we call an elucidation of the resolution. Basically, let me begin with what we call an unending quest, as the resolution says that Uganda's unending quest for a credible, free, and fair election. So that is reflective of the fact that we are still in a struggle that is unending. We are in a process of trying to bring out a transformation, a transparency, and a fair as well as free elections are concerned. So that is also reflective of the fact that from our first time to experience or to indulge in the democratic or in the democracy of a nation, we have never got a fair and free elections. Then let me explain the meaning of an election. So what we call an election is a process through which citizens of the country that are legal to participate or indulge in the democratic process choose or elect leaders of their own choice. However, election is governed or consolidated by what we call democracy. And according to Abraham Lincoln, he defines democracy as the power of the people, by the people, for the people, and with the people. And then with that explanation, I will delve into the history of Uganda's elections to the contemporary era. So the first election of the democratic process we had as our country, Uganda, was not 1961. However much many people assert that it was 1961, no, it was 1954, but we were still under the British colonial rule or the British imperialism. Then we went to the 1958 election or the 1950 democratic process. Still, we are still under the British. From there, we had the 1961 democratic process when the Buganda Kingdom tried all boycotted. So by then we had 13 million people, the 13 million citizens in the country. But due to the fact that the Buganda boycotted, only 1.3 million indulged in the voting process. Then the UPC under Benedicto Chiwanuka became winners. However, those elections were alleged of rigging, so they were unfair due to the fact that any election to be called free and fair, all citizens, all majority of the citizens within the country must do what? Must indulge in the process. So that election was not free. Then we went to the 1962 election. The 1962 elections, we had KY, the Kabaka Eka, and Kabaka Muteesa as the second. We had UPC under Dr. Apollo Milton Obote. We had other political parties. We had the DP. So we had an amalgamation or a coalition between the KY Kabaka Yeka and a UPC. So what we call a coalition, this is when two or more parties are joined. So we saw this. So that is also reflective of the fact that the election was unfair. Reason being, Kabaka Yeka coalited with the UPC to win a DP. So that is also unfairness as far as the election process is concerned. Then we had the 1980, was it 1980? Yes, 1980 elections. In 1980 elections, we still had Dr. Apollo Milton Obote. So in the 1980 elections, a temporary electoral commission was formed by the by Dr. Apollo Milton Obote. After this electoral commission was formed, it acted in favor of the president, Dr. Apollo Milton Obote. So this is the reason as to why this unfairness that indulged in the election process or in the democratic process sparked off the Bush War under President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. But before this 1980 election, let me refer you back to the 1966 scandal or the 1966 Buganda crisis, when Dr. Apollo Milton Obote, using his army commander Idi Amin Dada, attacked Mengo, attacked the palace, and overthrew the president or the ceremonial president Edward Muteesa, who was then exiled from our country, Uganda. He did this with a view of removing or relinquishing the 1962 Constitution, and he put what some people would call the Revolutionary Constitution, but it is the Pigeonhole Constitution. Reason being, he wanted to consolidate all the democratic processes, all the democratic rights of our country, Uganda. Then we went to the 1980 election, which was alleged to be unfree and fair. Why? The Electoral Commission acted in favor of the government. This enabled all sparked off anger to President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni to stage what we call a Bush War. Then in 1986, we did not have any election. Then we went to 1994, the Constitutional Assembly that was put in order to amend or to establish a constitution, what we 95 a constitution. Then 1995 the constitution was made. 1996 we had an election still under President Museveni. However, I shall also refer you to the 1989 election, whereby we had the movement system. And what we called the movement system. NRM was the only political party that was allowed to express democratic processes, to express democratic rights, and other combatants were just allowed to come and contest, but not under political parties. That is also reflective of the fact that Uganda was in an incredible free and fair election. Why? For an election to be credible and fair, it must allow multi-party system of democracy, whereby people can utilize their opportunity to choose leaders of their own choice by following all choosing political parties that they must follow. Then 1996 we still had an election under President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. This electoral process, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni again chose the Electoral Commission that was called the Independent Electoral Commission. However, to me, it was not independent. Why? It acted on the rules and regulations of the president. And amongst the Baganda, we have a saying amongst our people that you can never bite or never bite a hand that feeds you. You cannot put me in power and I act contrary. You cannot put me in power, give me what I need and I act contrary, meaning that through however much the constitution says that the electoral committee should either be appointed or voted. I shall remember the article. So following that, we saw unfairness and irregularities why petitions were put or laid in the Supreme Court. Then we had the 2001 elections. In the 2001 elections, the main a combatant of President Museveni was Dr. Kizza Besigye. So we saw President Museveni using the opportunity of the military. We saw self-deployment of the military organs, of the military system into the democratic process of Uganda. Yet according to Article 208 of the Ugandan Constitution of the 1995 Constitution, Article 208, subsection 2, and Article 209 are such that the military organs, be it the UPDF, be it the Ugandan police, the ADF, security agencies, spiritual leaders, cultural leaders, pious leaders, religious leaders, should not intervene within the electoral process. And I shall also refer you to miscellaneous articles that do talk about the rights of the Independent Electoral Commission. We have Article 60 of the Ugandan Constitution, Article 61, Article 62, that says that the electoral committee should be an independent body. The electoral committee should not be intervened, but we are seeing miscellaneous cases of military involvement. So why am I bringing this? It is a comma endocompensable way through which the government in power, that is the NRM, passed through to intimidate the democratic process of our country, Uganda. We had the 2006 elections when President Museveni ushered in.
Trevor, can I preempt? Can I interrupt you a little bit?
Okay.
I would like, uh, as I feel like you have identified a lot of the trends that have been in almost all elections in Uganda. So in a minute, can you wrap up and tell us what dominant trends have you observed in the elections from 2006 to 2021, the latest? What dominant trends did you observe before we can go to Hamiduh to the next part of the conversation?
Yes, in a view of the foregoing, the dominant trends I've observed in the democratic process since 1961 up to date. One is the independence of the Independent Electoral Commission, whereby the Electoral Commission has been acting or is still acting in favor of the government. The reason being, right from 1962 up to now, the Electoral Commission is not elected. The Electoral Commission is appointed by those people in power, not people in power, but particularly the president. So, due to the fact that the Electoral Commission's independence is compromised by the state, we are seeing unfair and unfree elections. Second, we are seeing a recycle of the military involvement into the democratic process of our country. Yes, since 1966, when the Buganda crisis occurred, up to now, we are seeing that the military is offering an upper hand, is advocating for injustices, which injustices are favoring or keeping the government in power. A case in point is military generals who came up on air and said that even if the government or the NRM does not win, we can do whatever we can to put it in power. So that is reflective of the fact that the Electoral Commission's independence and the military involvement are cycles that have been occurring. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trevor. And now to invite Hamiduh to the conversation because we've had you talking about the dominant trends and the lack of credibility and free and fair elections in Uganda. Mpaata, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, madam.
Yes, I would like to invite you to talk about the mandate of the Independent Electoral Commission under the Constitution and whether or not you believe that the Electoral Commission in Uganda is capable of holding free and fair elections. Please come in.
Thank you, Madam Nancy.
Mpaata, please unmute your microphone. Your microphone is muted. Mpaata, please unmute your microphone and talk to us. We cannot hear you.
Yes, I have unmuted.
Okay, then talk to us.
I was saying that just as my colleague Trevor has synced back from the various elections that Uganda has been having since the period of independence, you've asked me the independence of the Electoral Commission, the mandates of the Electoral Commission, and how it has always acted during the various elections. Now, just as my colleague has taken us back in the history of the Ugandan elections, first and foremost, I would say that in Uganda, we have never gotten an opportunity of having a fully independent electoral commission. Uh, Even the electoral commissions, all those that have been in existence, as he has clearly elaborated, they have been under the dominance of the incumbent, that's the presidential incumbent. For example, when you look at the electoral commissions of 1980, all those were established by Dr. Apollo Milton Obote. Uh, when you look at the electoral commission that is established by the 1995 Constitution, that is after Uganda getting the 1995 Constitution during the NRM era, we saw the electoral commission being put in place. For example, in the Article 60, that is subsection 1, that brings clearly the establishment of the electoral commission. Then when you go to Article 60, that is subsection 2, it brings us, or it tells us the responsibilities of the electoral commission, or the membership, sorry. It brings us to the membership of the electoral commission, who is supposed to be a member of the EC. Then when you go to the Article 61, then that brings us to the rules of the electoral commission, what it's supposed to be doing, what's its mandate, and all the responsibilities of the EC. But however, if we go into the Ugandan current affairs, we can tell that the Electoral Commission has not fully fulfilled its roles and responsibilities just as articulated by the Article 61 of the 1995 Constitution. For example, when you look at the responsibilities of the Electoral Commission, according to that article, we are going to see that the first and foremost, EC is supposed to organize a free and transparent elections that is in Uganda. EC is supposed to compile, maintaining, and updating the national voters register. But however, when you look at the current affairs in Uganda, you're going to find that the voters registers can be manipulated at someone's demand. For example, recently when we had in the Bukedia election process, or the nomination process, first of all, we saw the first candidates, aspirants who were competing against the incumbent Speaker of Parliament being wiped out of the voters register. Yet they were updated and their names were displayed on the list that were just confirmed by the Electoral Commission. From that, then we saw the Electoral Commission failing to manage or failing to work upon that. So, under the constitutional duties of the Electoral Commission, as due to Article 61 of the Constitution, the EC has failed on that. When you look at the declaration of results as well, the Electoral Commission has failed to fulfill such responsibilities. For example, when you drive into the 2021 general elections, when the Electoral Commission declared the Electoral Commission declared the winner as General Museveni, His Excellency Museveni, as the winner of the 2021 elections without displaying the independent results from the various voting centers or from the various voting areas. And then when they were crystallized, declaration forms were denied to the opposition parties. So in so doing, we can say that the Electoral Commission has not fully fulfilled its duties and responsibilities as per the 1995 Constitution. And then still under the same article, that is Article 61, it clearly brings to us the Electoral Commission is supposed to ensure regular, free, and fair elections. But however, this has not been in place. All this has not happened ever since the Electoral Commission was established under the 1995 Constitution. So in so doing, we can tell that the Electoral Commission in Uganda has not fully fulfilled the duties and responsibilities articulated as per the 1995 Constitution. But however, we put all such blame to the mistakes or to the loopholes that were.
Go on,
Yes,
go
I
on.
don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Yes, I was telling you that we can put all such to the loopholes that were put into the 1995 Constitution. For example, however much the Electoral Commission has failed to fulfill its duties and responsibilities, but when you seek back in this Constitution, very Constitution, it failed to create the independence, the full independence of the EC. However much in the Article 62 of this Constitution, it indicates that the Electoral Commission shall be independent and members of the Electoral Commission shall be brought or shall be nominated by the president, then it will be the parliament that will confirm the membership of the commission. But this is controversial. But it centralized all powers in the hands of the president to choose who's going to manage the voting process. And this explains why various civil societies have petitioned the independence of the Electoral Commission. For example, when you look at the IPOD itself and the Citizen Coalition for Electoral Democracy, that is the CCEDU, it petitioned the independence of the Electoral Commission and they brought suggestions that why wouldn't they establish a body or a committee that will be in charge of appointing the Electoral Commission other than putting all the rights and the powers in the president. But however, that was rejected by the government. Just imagine in 2002, it was President Museveni who appointed Engineer Baddo Chigundu to be the chairman of the Electoral Commission. 2016, Justice Simon Byabakama was still being appointed by the same incumbent, President Museveni. So just as my colleague has said, you cannot cut off a supporting hand or you cannot fight against someone who brought you from the village. So that indicates that indeed we can't say that we shall receive any free and fair election based on the details put on the Electoral Commission. Just imagine, Madam Nancy, when we saw various court petitions being raised against the Electoral Commission. For example, in the 2001 presidential election petition in the Supreme Court, when Dr. Kizza Besigye versing Electoral Commission and Museveni, just imagine the Supreme Court itself accepted that in the 2001 election there were massive irregularities, including intimidation and ballot stuffing. The Chief Justice at the time, Justice Kanye Hamba, one of the 7 judges who were in that case, Justice Kanye Hamba himself, he said that the EC was not impartial and it failed in its constitutional duties. When you look at the 2006 petition, Dr. Abisegi versing the EC and Museveni, court admitted multiple voting and bribery that occurred. Justice Odochi, he noted that EC did not fully comply with the principles of transparency and fairness. So all these are bringing to us the details that the Electoral Commission, first of all, has never been independent, and the Electoral Commission, on the other basis, it has failed to fulfill its election or its constitutional duties. 2016 petition, Madam Nancy, still, Mama Mbabazi, when he was versing the EC and Museveni, the court again found non-compliance with the electoral laws, but declined to nullify the results. Just imagine when the court declared that indeed EC did not fully fulfill its duties and there were a lot of irregularities, but these were not enough to the election. When Justice Katireve admitted that EC did not act with full independence. So if the Chief Justice, someone at the rank of Chief Justice, someone at the rank of the Chief Justice, the Supreme Court of Uganda coming on board and they do submit or they do accept that the EC was not fully independent and he has not fully fulfilled its constitutional duties, then there is no way how we can come and say that indeed in Uganda we have been having free and fair elections. So that discredits the electoral process of Uganda under the EC or the Electoral Commission that is being established by the 1995 Constitution.
Allow me to ask you to come in to answer this in about 2 minutes before we can go back to Trevor. I would
can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Mpaata, can you hear me?
Could it be network? I'm not hearing you.
Trevor, can you hear me? Mpaata, can you hear me?
Madam
Or
Nance,
Trevor,
I'm not hearing you. I don't know if it could be network problem.
I don't know because I can hear you very clearly. So I don't know why you cannot hear me. Trevor, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Mpaata, then it appears to be your network problem because Trevor and I can hear each other very well. So Trevor, while Mpaata
Maybe
sorts
it's
out
network, but I'm not picking anything. I'm not hearing you.
Okay, it appears to be network. Let me text in the chat to tell Mpaata that it's probably his network. So while we handle Mpaata's issue, Trevor, can you come in and answer a question?
Yes, Madam Nance, I'm now hearing you. Previously, I was not hearing.
You were not hearing me, Trevor?
I'm
Trevor,
hearing
can
you.
you hear me? Oh, okay, yes. Because I want to ask you about the roles of other institutions of state, because in an election process, we know that the police, by virtue of their constitutional mandate, have the right to come and offer protection, keep law and order, especially during the election polls. However, the army has been heavily involved in our elections. Like Mpaata said, the army has come in to do the work that originally belongs to the police, and sometimes it has come in excess. But also the fact that our courts have failed to check and offer deliver judgments even when there is unfairness in elections means that some of these processes do not yield any result. So let us talk about the army. Where does the army get its mandate to come and participate in elections? And is this mandate constitutionally valid? But also, if it is not, let us talk about the amount of force used according to normalities. Is that what is supposed to happen in a case of free and fair elections, or it's a case of intimidation? Trevor, take us away.
I beg your pardon.
I was asking about the mandate of the army in elections. Does the army have the mandate to come and participate in elections? If they do, where do they get their mandate? But also the amount of force they use. Is it lawful? That is what I am asking. Trevor, did you hear that? Trevor? Trevor, I cannot hear you. Your microphone is on, but I cannot hear you. Well, we also have Mr. Nahereza, but he has dropped off the call. Actually, it's Trevor who dropped off the call. Nahereza, Alex, can you hear me? Alex, can you hear me? Mpaata, can you hear me? Because it appears the rest are not hearing me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, did you get my question about the army?
Your first part on the question you said, under which mandate?
Yes, under which mandate does the army participate in electoral process? But also, are their activities during the election cycle lawful? That is what I wanted to. That's what I asked. It was initially your question, but because you were not hearing me, I sent it to Trevor, and then Trevor dropped off also.
Oh, so the question is under which mandate does the army participate in the election process, right?
Yes, yes.
All right. Uh, First and foremost, the army is mandated. For example, when you look at the constitution, the 1995 constitution of Uganda, it provides legal basis for the army, that is the UPDF, and defines its roles. When you look at the article 208 and the subsection 2, it clearly says that the Uganda Police Defense shall be non-partisan, national in character, patriotic, professional, disciplined. So it declares how the Uganda People's Defense, the UPDF, should be. Then when you go straight to Article 209, it lists the functions of the UPDF. Under the functions of UPDF, we have preserving and defending the sovereignty and territorial integrity. We have cooperating with the civilian authorities. We had engaging productive activities, fostering economic, among others. But however, when you follow the Article 209 of the 1995 Constitution, it clearly brings the responsibilities or the functions of the Uganda People's Defense Force. But under those functions, there is no any article that brings it that the UPDF shall be involved in the election process. But however, when you go to the electoral laws, for example, the Electoral Commission Act, that is CAP 140, and the Presidential Elections Act 2005, the amendment election, the Presidential Elections Act, they give Electoral Commission the exclusive mandate to manage and supervise the elections in Uganda, but however, not the army. Okay, so they bring to us that the mandate, they give them a mandate of supervising the elections in Uganda, but however, this mandate is not given to the army. But the EC may request security to support, like may request security support to ensure peace and order in case of managing, like providing security during the election process. The army will come in through the request of the electoral commission. But however, when you look at the practical bit of it in Uganda, it's controversial to the constitutional directives. So this brings us to a view that the army is illegally operating in the election process of Uganda. Because when you drive into the Article 2009 that brings about the functions of the Uganda People's Defense Force, there is no any article that brings to us that the army shall be the army shall be in charge of the electoral process. Still, when you go to the electorals, that is the Electoral Commission Act. When you go to the Presidential Elections Act of 2005, they give the Electoral Commission the exclusive mandate to manage and supervise the elections in Uganda. But there's no way how the army comes into its involvement. Only if the Electoral Commission has requested support to ensure peace and order. But however, they have a very limited roles when it comes to the election of Uganda. But when you look at the current situation, we're seeing the military forces dominating various elections. We're seeing the Uganda People's Defense Force violating these constitutional duties as per the 1995 Constitution and the electoral amendments. For example, how does this come about? We saw various UPDF officials or prominent army generals. For example, when General Eli Tumwine, who was the minister in charge of security, that is 2018 to 2021. When we drive into the 2021 elections, General Eli Tumwine, he clearly justified the use of force during the 21 campaigns. We all remember what transpired in the 21 campaigns when the opposition party were suffocated and were oppressed, not allowed to perform their or to conduct their campaigns as for the Constitution of 1995. So we are seeing General Eli Tumwine, he clearly defending the UPDF, that it was justifiable for them to use force during these elections. And we saw him even passing a statement on media that the police had the right to shoot in an instance where over 54 supporters of the opposition party were killed in Luuka, that is in November 2020. Over 54 were killed, over 500 were imprisoned. And when various civil societies were criticizing the acts of the army, we saw General Eli Tumwine coming and claiming that the army had a right to shoot, and that they were performing their duties of forcing the campaigns or disorganizing campaigns of the opposition. Currently, we're seeing the various army generals issuing up directives to suffocate the opposition. For example, when you look at the CDF of Uganda, that is General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, when he clearly says that I will disorganize all the opposition. And in 2021, he ordered the SFC, which is meant to be providing security for the president, but however, ordered the SFC to put the opposition party leader, that is Bobby Wine, under house arrest for over 11 days. So we are seeing currently the army directly involving into the election process of Uganda, which is contrary to the 1995 constitution. And therefore, we can say that first of all, there is no any article or there is no any constitution mandate that brings the army on the floor of the election processes. But it's controversial because the army is dominating each and every election activities. We are seeing it's the army transporting ballot papers. For example, the army and police, they are moving ballot papers from one place to another. And that's not constitution mandate of the army. This is supposed to be independent and organized by the independent body without military or without army men. We are seeing currently men in uniform campaigning for the incumbent or campaigning for the party. And this is contrary to the article Article 212 of the 1995 Constitution, which clearly brings that the UPDF shall be non-partisan. But currently, we're seeing men in uniform campaigning for the opposition. For example, the commander of the Air Force, we saw him recently in the northern region, moving with the photos or moving with the pictures of the opposition, the opposition president's son, the campaigning that you see this gentleman is in abroad, but your children are suffering supporting opposition. How can a military personnel do that? Moreover, when you're putting on uniform with the rank of command of the Uganda's Air Force. So, Madam Nas, I think that
Thank you
brings
so
us to
much.
review that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your thoughtful deliberations. And I am sorry to cut you off midway, but we are almost coming to the close of our discussion, and yet we've not heard from one of our participants. Nahereza, please, can you hear me?
Yes, madam, I can hear you very well for now.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for joining us. I want us to talk about uh, the voters now, or the population, because we've talked about the constitution, we've talked about the history of this country, we've also talked about the roles of the electoral commission and the army, but also the judiciary and how election results are contested, but also all the issues around institutions and credibility. And now I would like us to talk about voters. In this 2026 elections, there's a projection that over 5 million new young voters will be coming to the stage, and very few of them have civic education, or for that matter, voter education. And I would also like us to reflect that ever since we started elections under the 1995 Constitution, the voter turnout has been reducing year by year because of lack of trust in the institutions. So I would like us to talk about what role voter education and civic education plays in ensuring credible, free, and fair elections, but also how can institutions win over the trust of people in order for us to have them participate in elections. Nahereza.
Okay, once again, I appreciate the platform that has been rendered to me and share something in as far as how Uganda's credibility of elections. Before we move on, the word credibility, it can be termed as how perfectly can Uganda hold elections? And when we say that free and fair, that is just not perfect, not well, but at least people can pick an interest and participate in the general elections. Thanks, Madam. You have posed the question about how voters can be or can pick an interest in voting and how can institutions do in prayer in preference of committing the voters to go and vote. I think for the first time, I will say that the sensitization of the voters to be done on the ground, however much that the voters lacked an interest in voting due to cases of corruption. However much we sensitize them, however much we teach them, but yet we are still having corruption. Really, they won't pick an interest and they will be behind in voting. That's why they are lacking morale. When you talk about corruption, it doesn't mean that embezzlement of public funds or swindling of public funds, but corruption can be done in very many ways. I will give an example. Let's say that Mpaata Hamiduh is one of the voters who is willing to vote for the presidency of any party. But reaching at the polling station, he has found that people are being given some token that to convince them and vote for another party. Now, Mpaata will be immediately strayed away from his intention. However much he was going to cast a vote, credibly, but he won't participate in voting of the I won't participate voting credibly because of the corruption. He will be in a position of receiving the token he is going to be given. Then at the end of all, you find that the democracy that has come with it has been deferred from the polling station. Why? People are now very poor, especially voters. They have extended from the process of being poor, poverty to paupers. For them, they have that they have it into their mind that their ways of living, when it comes to elections, they will just sit and wait for these participants to come and give them something to put into their pockets. Now, within the process of the voters for themselves won't spare time and revise themselves about the casting of the votes and how could be done. However much that the institutions may come in and motivate them and teach them, but once people are still in the state of poverty, they won't cast their votes in a credibility way. Then, putting that aside, we have seen it in the NRM primaries when Rebecca Kadaga was against Anita Among as they are agitating for one position. But the trending news, and when we read from the newspapers, we saw that Kadaga was bribing voters, giving them huge sums of money to cast the vote. However much that Kadaga was having the potential and the credibility of leading the party, but Anita Mong used the chance of buying the voters, giving them huge sums of money, in a sense that they want to look about Kadaga, but they're going to look about Anita Among because of the amount of money he has given to them. Now in that area, the voters themselves, they won't cast their votes in a crucial way, in a process which is transparent, but they are going to cast a vote because of being bribed, because of being given a token. As you know how Uganda, the elections of Uganda are always about money. Again, still on the voters, we also have the tendency, the voters themselves, they have a tendency of segregation, lack of togetherness among the voters. Because once you find a voter from NUP is crashing with a voter from NRM, let me use those two political wings. At the end of all, you find that when the elections are done, we are going to remain on the same table as the citizens of Uganda. But the processes of campaigning, the processes of looking for votes, they try to diminish and separate voters from one another. However much that I could go and convince someone and I incite him or her, I let him know what is trending in the country. People won't understand me, however much I'm agitating for democracy, but for them, they are all after money because of poor. And once people are insisted with something, they won't spare time to revise themselves about what they are going to do. When the institutions comes in, they teach, they educate. A few of them may pick up, but due to the fact that we have the ruling party, which has been serving the country for almost 40 years, people will be intimidated. People will be in fear that once I cast my vote at another party, there may be the poor transition of power as the way how they are being intimidated. There must be the occurrence of wars. There must be death and whatever. As the way have been seeing how the general of the Republic of Uganda, the moreover the general, the CDF, abducting people, imprisoning them. But once they ask the some, once they pose some questions to them, they won't come up with the clear provision that Alexi has been arrested because of A, B, C, D. But they just start hitting around the bush. Why? They always know whatever they are doing, they are not in line with democracy. And once democracy is upheld in the country, it is the free transition of the area of power from one generation to another. But for them, they weak mind themselves and start abducting people. And when it comes to the voters, they start agitating for their reforms and in terms of political powers. I think that's what can I say. That is what I can say about the voters and the institutions, the sensitization, the corruption, and among others.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Nahereza, and of course, Mr. Mpaata, Hamiduh, and Trevor. As we end this conversation, we can look forward to more deliberations on the future of this country, especially in terms of making elections more peaceful, making talking about uniform application of the law, which are the major concerns that were raised in this, but also on ensuring that people participate in the most important part of this democratic process. I've been hosting the students of Muteesa, the first Royal University, and they were discussing the credibility of elections in Uganda since 1961. But of course, Trevor told us also that elections in Uganda did not begin in 1961. They began way back in the colonial time. I am so happy and honored to have hosted these students, and I hope that we can have a good weekend and continue this conversation on social media and tell us what you think. My name is Nancy Caroline Ayot. I've been your host. Stay blessed. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome, madam.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Madam, for the host. We appreciate everything. However much you have joined late, but you have been following.
It is well. It is well.
Yes, madam, we